Most individuals have watched iconic horror films such as Psycho, the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and The Silence of the Lambs. However, many people are unaware that the terrible antagonists in all three films were all modeled on a single real-life killer, Ed Gein, the infamous butcher of Plainfield. When authorities arrived at his Plainfield, Wisconsin home in November 1957 to investigate the disappearance of a local woman, they stumbled into a house of horrors. Not only did they locate the lady they were seeking for, dead, beheaded, and hanging from her ankles, but they also discovered a variety of stunning, horrific things created by Ed Gein. Police discovered skulls, human organs, and grotesque pieces of furniture such as lampshades constructed of human faces and chairs upholstered with human skin. Gein's purpose, as he subsequently confessed to authorities, was to make a skin suit to almost resuscitate his deceased mother, with whom he had been fascinated for years. Ed Theodore Gein was born on August 27, 1906, in La Crosse, Wisconsin. He grew up under the influence of his pious and authoritarian mother, Augusta. She instilled in Ed and his brother Henry the belief that the world was full of evil, that women were vessels of sin, and that drinking and immortality were Satan's tools. Augusta, desperate to safeguard her family from the evil that she imagined lurked around every turn, insisted on moving from La Crosse, a sinkhole of filth, she feared, to Plainfield. Even there, Augusta had the family relocate outside of town because she feared living in town would corrupt her two young kids. As a result, Ed Gein only ever left his family's remote home to attend to school. However, he was unable to form significant relationships with his peers, who described him as socially awkward and prone to strange, unexplainable bouts of laughing. In addition, Ed's lazy eye and speaking handicap made him an easy target for bullies. Ed adored his mother despite everything. His father, a quiet drinker who died in 1940, cast a considerably lesser impact on his life. He accepted her worldview lectures and appeared to embrace her severe outlook. Ed never stood up to Augusta, whereas Henry did on occasion. So, it's not surprising that Ed Gein's first victim was most likely his elder brother, Henry. Ed and Henry set out in 1944 to remove some weeds from their fields by burning it. But only one of the brothers would survive the night. As they labored, their fire quickly became out of control. And when firefighters arrived to extinguish the fire, Ed informed them that Henry had disappeared. His corpse was discovered shortly thereafter, face down in the swamp, dead from asphyxiation. At the time, it appeared to be a fatal accident. Whether it was an accident or not, Henry's death left Ed Gein and Augusta alone in the farmhouse. They remained there in solitude for approximately a year, until Augusta died in 1945. Then Ed Gein began a decade-long spiral into wickedness. Following Augusta's death, Ed Gein renovated the house into a shrine to her memory. He boarded up the rooms she had used, leaving them in immaculate shape, and moved into a small bedroom off the kitchen. He began to succumb to his obsessions while living alone in a remote area. Ed spent his days researching about Nazi medical experimentation, studying human anatomy, watching pornography, though he never attempted to date any real-life women, and reading horror books. He began to engage in morbid fantasies as well, but no one noticed for a long time. Indeed, for a decade, hardly one paid any attention to the Gein farm outside town. Everything changed in November 1957, when Bernice Warden, the owner of a small hardware shop, disappeared, leaving behind bloodstains. Warden, a 58-year-old widow, had last been seen at her shop. What about her last customer? Ed Gein was the one who had gone into the store to buy a gallon of antifreeze. When police went to Ed's farmhouse to investigate, they found themselves in the midst of a waking nightmare. Authorities discovered what inspired horror films such as Silence of the Lambs, Psycho, and the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. As soon as detectives entered Ed Gein's home, they discovered Bernice Worden in the kitchen. She was dead, beheaded, and hanging by her ankles from the rafters. There were also several bones, both whole and shattered, skulls impaled on his bedposts, and bowls and culinary utensils constructed of skulls. Worse than the bones were the domestic things Ed had fashioned from human skin. Authorities discovered chairs upholstered in human skin, a wastebasket made of flesh, leggings made of human leg skin, masks made of faces, a belt made of nipples, a pair of lips used as a window shade drawstring, a corset made of a female torso, and a lampshade made of a human face. In addition to the skin items, investigators discovered dismembered body parts such as fingernails, 4 noses, and 9 different women's genitals. They also discovered the bones of Mary Hogan, a tavern keeper who had gone missing in 1954. Ed Gein readily revealed that he had gathered the majority of the bones from 3 nearby cemeteries, which he had begun to visit 2 years after Augusta's death. He informed investigators that he went to the graveyards in a stupor, seeking for remains that resembled his mother. Ed also clarified why. He informed police that he intended to build a woman suit so that he could become his mother and crawl inside her body. The butcher of Plainfield was caught after a police raid on Ed Gein's home. In 1957, he was ruled not guilty due to insanity and was sent to the Central State Hospital for the Criminally Insane, where he was diagnosed with schizophrenia. Then, for some reason, his farmhouse caught fire. Ed was found fit to face trial 10 years later, and he was convicted of the murder of Bernice Worden, but only of her. He was never prosecuted for Mary Hogan's murder because the state considered it a waste of money. Ed was mad, they reasoned, and he would spend the rest of his life in hospitals. But this poses an unsettling concern. How many people did Ed Gein kill? He only acknowledged to killing Worden and Hogan before dying at the age of 77 in 1984. He claimed to have stolen the other remains, which police discovered in his residence, from cemeteries. As a result, we may never know how many people were killed by the Plainfield butcher. But one thing is certain: Ed Gein is one of the most terrifying serial killers in history. He's also credited as inspiring Psycho's mother-loving Norman Bates, Leatherface from the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and Buffalo Bill from the Silence of the Lambs. These films have horrified generations of moviegoers. However, they're not nearly as chilling as the real-life story of Ed Gein himself.